Hello, hello. Today we're doing something slightly different, but I haven't done it in a little while now. And I'm actually going to do a start guide for a Drazoath the Ashen. I can never really pronounce his name right. Drazoath? Something like that. Drazi the Ashen. Now, he is one of the three Chaos Dwarf Legendary Lords. We've been playing Astragoth Ironhand for a while now, which I'm going to be still continuing, even though we've made short victory now. But it's getting pretty hard, so we'll see how we go. So we're going to do Drazoath the Ashen as just a start guide for now. I don't think I'll continue the campaign at this point, but you never know. So, Drazoath, he has a few units he starts with, just some Goblin and Orc Labourers, which are garbage. He has the Chaos Dwarf Blunderbusses, which are very far from garbage. Bloody awesome. He has some Infernal Fireguard, the fight with Fireglaves, which are nice ranged units along with Blunderbusses. They complement each other quite well. And he has some Kedai Fireborn, which are like little demons that kick some butt, unless you let them get away from you, in which case they get banished and you're screwed. His factions effects are he has armament at a cost of minus 10%. He gets armament output of plus 10%. Campaign movement range plus 10%. Upkeep of minus 25% for all Cat-Eye units, so the Fireborn and the big monster dudes that rampage over everything. And his passive ability is Dark Renown, so everything around him gets a plus 8 melee attack, as long as they have Contempt. So Orcs and Goblins, not so much. But when you look at the Chaos Dwarves, which it's not going to let me this time, you see the little skull thing down the bottom there in the abilities. That's Contempt. Oh, there you go. Now it works. Okay, yeah. So they have Contempt for all of their Goblin and Hobgoblin units. Start-wise, it starts over here, just underneath. So that's about where Astragoth starts, up here, somewhere-ish. So he's sort of fairly far down here near this sort of Gulf area. Over here is where you've got, what's his name, Imric. Over here is some Skavens. Can't remember the name off the top of my head because I'm an idiot, but yes. So that's Drazoath. And let's get into how I like to start his campaign. Now, I am going to be auto-resolving the battles in this. You don't have to, of course, but I don't want to have to do multiple parts with battles and shit in it because it'd just be, well, crap, basically. So we kind of try and rush through as much as we can. You're, of course, going to get better battle results if you fight the battles manually. And in this way, you also are going to actually wipe out armies and stuff straight off. So, yeah, so there's pros and cons. It'll be about 10 turns we'll go through. And that should get us to a nice little point. Clan Rictus is those Skaven I was trying to think of before. So you get your how to plays and all that sort of stuff, of course. You start with Luktaz the Bronze as your Castellan hero with his Fireglaive. In this case, he's volatile. I think we've gotten volatile the last few times that I've played him, but that's alright. We'll chuck him straight into Drazoath's army. So as you can see, Blunderbuss, Infernal Guard, bunch of garbage. So it's not the strongest army, but that's alright. So first thing you want to do is straight up at the expected Darkland Orcs up here. So we'll just auto-resolve that out of the way. And we're going to take the Treasury. Good reasons for that is if you don't take the Treasury, you can't quite afford the same amount of troops you'd get otherwise. We'll just kind of quickly move him through and take out the Sentinels as well. Oh, it's a Power Stone. Whoop-de-doo. I occupy this as a factory. You don't have to. It doesn't make too much difference if you occupy it as something else. I just like to have the factory so that when the time comes, I've already got a factory to start smashing out the amount of armaments that I want it to. Along with this, we're going to build ourselves a ash something for the Chaos Dwarf infantry, and we're going to get ourselves the Hobgoblin mustering camp. Now, like all other Chaos Dwarf factions, you've got your usual labourers and all of that sort of stuff. So you want this accepting labourers. So you've got 627 at the moment, and that does affect our control quite badly. And you've also got all your raw materials, your armaments, and your conclave influence. So your raw materials let you build various buildings here. Your armaments let you increase things like your caps on the various troops, which you already start with some. And your influence lets you buy influence seats in the Tower of Tsar, which doesn't actually unlock yet in this particular point. You got to get through a few levels first. That's the main thing with the Chaos Dwarf. So you want to be building up a lot of those raw materials, especially to start with. I prefer to get a lot of raw materials at the start and then go over into armaments, but you don't have to do it my way, of course. So to also start off, what we do is we'll rush construction of this, because you can rush construction using your labourers. So you basically kill a whole bunch of slaves to rush your construction. So I do that for this one, because what I want to recruit straight away is our second blunderbuss and 2 Chaos Dwarf warrior units. Straight into the army, just like that. We could rush this one as well, but it's not going to benefit us at all, because we've already filled up our unit cap for recruiting this turn. You can also use some of your labourers to do some of these actions. It's not much point at this stage, so we'll just keep that as is. Of course, we also want to do some research. I generally start off with this one here, Stronghold Syndrome, because we are going to be relying on goblins in the early game, so this is just a nice little way to drop our labour costs a bit. You tend to still rely on them a bit later on as well, when you build new armies and that sort of stuff, but especially because you got to spend so much to actually get more of your Chaos Dwarves and your War Machines and that sort of stuff. Though War Machine wise, that's definitely worth the cost. We'll spend the points. In this case, I want to go for more campaign and Burning Wrath. So I generally go for 2 points in Burning Wrath and getting Killing Fire, just to start him out. Then I'll move into the blue line, get him through Logistician. And then we go through Inspiring Presence. Going through some of his other skills and that sort of stuff. He's got Towering Heights to increase his research rate and lower construction costs and construction time. For this one for your Infernal Guard upkeep and that sort of thing. As you can see, it does include fire glaives and that sort of stuff. So before you actually start spending your armaments on fire glaives, you do want to grab that. Greed of Asgore for more raw materials and more income from your cities. Now that's just faction wide, so it just affects everything, so you don't need to be anywhere specifically, so it's actually a really good one to have. This one is only really good if you are going for that cat eye option. So you've got your destroyers and your fireborn. I mean, if you are going the cat eye option, it's not a bad option because you get your minus 25 upkeep for them anyway. So yeah, I can understand going for that. This one's just straight up buffing Drazoath himself. And this is only really needed once you get a decent way into the Hashut magic line. So you'll be reducing the spell cost of Flames of Asgore, which is actually a very good spell. The rest of this stuff is fairly standard across the board, buffing troops and that sort of thing. He does also get Cinder Breath as his mount at rank 11, which I think he's a Bale Taurus, so he has like a Flame Breath and that sort of thing as well. So he's pretty good. The Infernal Castellan, he's not too bad. You can either get a short range one or a long range one. Long range one gets Cinder Blast as a little bonus hit. The rest of it's just the usual sort of buffing and sort of things. Speed plus 20 when you get a long range seems a bit weird, but that's right. I generally go for the shorter range. It reduces his range, but gives him explosive shots, so he does a bit more damage to units and that sort of stuff. And when he gets into combat, which I inevitably use them as tanks, so getting more armor and melee defense is good there. And he gets Flash Bomb, so it reduces the melee defense of enemies. And this is pretty good because it increases his missile damage and gets him Vanguard. So in general, I try and get buff up their melee abilities most because I tend to use them as tanks early on in the campaign. Now, I can't show you the military convoys or the Tower of Tsar yet, so we'll just continue through the turns on that. See how we go. Coffee. So this tends to be a fairly good way of predicting what your enemies are going to do at the very start of the campaign. Controlling what the various enemies around you will do can be a bit more difficult. So you do tend to end up in... the difference between your different campaign starts is going to be who declares war on you for no particular reason whatsoever around you. One of the ways to stop some of them is sending out your convoys, because they actually will increase the diplomatic relations with the factions that you do that to. Alright, so you get straight up, because we built the Gobbo building, you get the quest to get Gordar's Backstabber, the legendary hero. He's not the best hero, but he is very handy for an army that has a lot of Gobbos in it. So he buffs them and he reduces their cost. Alright, so we're going to move Drazoath straight down here to around here. It's not too big a deal where exactly he goes to at this point, but we want him roughly there. We're going to recruit ourselves another lord. I generally go for an overseer, just because overseers have a way of reducing the cost of your hobgoblins and that sort of stuff. At this stage of the campaign, a dust isn't the best of traits, because that flaming attacks, you're going to be fighting Imric down here sometime fairly soon, and flaming attacks against him are useless. So I'm going to go with Corrupt to increase Chaos Corruption. Send him across. We're going to build ourselves a couple of Hobgoblin Sneaky Gits, because they're not too bad. And that's really all we can do for this turn. Still going to keep that building, just because. Nothing we can really do at the Hellforge. Yeah, we can upgrade to get more of them, but we don't want to do that at the moment. We're only getting 11 armaments at the moment a turn. That will slowly go up because you get more armaments as you get more buildings. Or not more buildings, more settlements. And you actually want to save your armaments anyway at this point. So by the time you're coming back to do some other things, you'll be actually building one of the buildings that requires armaments to build. Which is the way I do it, at least. By the time I've taken out Clan Rictus, I should be also starting to build the what are they? The center, the thingy building, center something. Go here. This building here, the Centaur Renders building. So that we can actually get a couple of Bull Centaur heroes, because we'll be able to get 2 by the time you're fighting Imrics. But that's neither here nor there. These buildings actually require armaments to build and to upgrade. So quite a lot of them when you get up to here, and it's definitely worth it when you go for things like your Dreadquake mortars. because those are freaking crazy, and I highly recommend getting a Dreadquake mortar. But yeah, I mean, most of this it does just require raw materials for a lot of it, gold for some of it, but most of these buildings you're not really going to worry about. Buildings you mostly want are these ones, this one, get this one upgraded, and of course you want to get a Temple of Heshut when you can as well, just to increase your concave influence. Alright, so he's gotten a couple troops. Now, we're going to move this guy to about here. That'll mean we can then see what's happening here, where they have an army. He's now going to build 3. And he's going to go into ambush stance and stand right next to him. Now the reasons for all this, and it is completely predictable, he is now going to come out and he is going to attempt to attack him. He'll get into a fight. We'll either get a ambush or we won't. Doesn't matter too much. We have our first bit of research done, and now we're going to start buffing our Chaos Dwarves. I generally go through this one, then that one, and then I'll move on to the sorcery one, and that's where we get our second hero, Bull Centaur, from by the time we get to that point. So while we're recruiting and whatnot, we'll do that, and if it does anything different, it'll be literally the first time I've seen it. And so this way you're recruiting troops and you're luring out your enemy at the same time. 2 things at once. So this way you get your 3 troops and you get to destroy an enemy lord. Yep, here he comes. Out he comes. Straight in, yep. The ambush got discovered, but it doesn't really matter. He still attacks anyway, because I don't know. I actually think there's like a little bit of a bug there. But oh well. Again, we take the money, so the reason we could even afford those 3 troops for him at the time was because we took the money from that first fight. If we hadn't taken the money, you could only afford 2, basically, is what it comes down to. You can still do this with 2, but I just prefer 3, because I'm like that. Alright, Drazoath, he's going to hit Darkhold now. And this will be another easy auto-resolve fight. But we want to bring up the other army. Just so that he's here as well. So we get him in. Good. Before we attack, we'll just spend the points. Like I said, I go max out Burning Wrath and Killing Fire on him. I go with piercing missiles here, just to make his missile strength up a bit. Then these next points will be able to go into there. Now I said the excuse me. I said the Overseer. The reason I get the Overseer is because he has some buffs he gives to the labourers, and that's this one here. So he's got, it's a campaign movement range one there, but here it's minus 15% upkeep for all the hobgoblins and stuff. And this lord, I tend to go through and make him a bit of a gobbo lord, to make sure that I can make my hobgoblins and such better. So we're going to decisive victory here. We're going to lose 2 goblin units, but that's fine. They're crap anyway, and we don't really want them. This one I take as an outpost, so I've now got a factory and an outpost. One for... So that basically means I've got this one over here. I'll be able to turn that into making armaments. And this one I'll be able to put in a strip mine, which I'm not going to do yet. First thing I do here is build 3 more of them. Because we're basically, as quickly as we can, we're trying to get ourselves to having a full stack. Don't really need to do that little move there. Yeah, you will have caravans and stuff start appearing here, but you don't have to do anything about those if you don't want to. I generally avoid that because I want to hit Clan Rictus as soon as possible. To help with that, we're going to now get rid of that building. That's going to get us 2,400 gold to go with what we're also getting. So we're going to have a decent amount of gold. that will mean we can shift him up here and get our next 3. So as I say, killing fire here. And we're going to go into his brutal discipline now. But he's got route marcher. Well, basically I go brutal discipline, harsh master, logistician, inspiring presence, and put up the fodder. And then I normally still put some shooting troops and that sort of thing in his army. So now there is some building upgrades we can do, but I'm not going to do them at the moment. I want to save my resources. I generally go for control on here. You can do some other ones where you get extra recruit ranks, lower recruit costs and that sort of thing, but the bonus control for me is good as far as I'm concerned. Next turn we're going to essentially be building this one here, and we're going to rapidly build it as well. So we don't want to spend our labourers on improving control or anything like that at this point. But we do have our first little province. This is on legendary difficulty as well, so it may change if you do lower difficulties. But on legendary, I've found this is quite a predictable way of doing it. There's a couple of things that can change, but when I get to those, I'll mention them. Right, so the guys that had that have now been wiped out, as expected, because that happens every single time on this turn. Yep, that's done. We've completed that one. We've now got convoys available as well. So this is Gordas. He's our legendary hero, Hobgoblin. Comes with a little weapon that is the Dagger of Malice. Means he does poison stuff when you have that in combat. And he's got a higher replenishment rate for the hobgoblins in his own army and physical resistance for them as well. So, and makes them immune to psychology. So this is why he is such a good hero to have in your army that's going to have him. Along with that, he's got his usual fighter melee stuff that goes through there. But he also has this one here, which further lowers the upkeep of the hobgoblins in the army. So when you combine it in this army with that, it becomes very, very powerful. So they become very cheap. So your most expensive hobgoblins, which are your sneaky kits, become something like 82 gold each or something like that. So it's a big discount on them. And along here as well, so this upgrades all of your hobgoblins with defense and melee and missile resistance and speed and all of that as well. This one here means you can actually summon units of hobgoblins. So overall, very, very good hero. He also has these sorts of things, so that boosts some of his hero actions and stuff. Not that useful, but he also gets this one, so it gets him a 10% ward save. And this one, which then adds Vanguard deployment and that sort of things to your hobgoblins. So overall, very good hero. Adds a lot of value to your army. We're going to go Infernal Slugs here. Gives him explosive bullets, and I like the short range. So weird. We're going to pop him in the army. Increases the replenishment as well, so it's very good. We're going to move him all the way up here, and we're going to grab 2 more of them. As you can see, we're very much skirting the edges of our upkeep as well. Now, the reason you can actually even have like an extra lord is because unlike most other races, Chaos Dwarves don't have supply lines. Now, we have a lot of labourers because part of Gordas' quest is you get some, like 500 or something. So we're going to get that kicked off and jam that up. So as you can see, that puts our required workload. So we need at least 400 labourers to actually keep that up. We can lose 66. We've got 660, so we're good. And our raw materials is now plus 300, which is excellent because that means in 2 turns we can start building that one just there. That's what we definitely want to do. So we're going to ignore these. So this is where we're going to build that building when we have our 250 armaments. And yeah, so we're on our way. But we still have 1,300 gold, and we're going to spend that by creating a new convoy. I like the Ogre Controller Convoy. It is because part of it is you get plus 20 relations with Ogre Kingdoms. Cat Eye, you get a better army, I think. But Ogre Controller, you get more things to stop you from going to war too early with Greasus over here. So, depending on what you want. So, when you have a look, Castle Drakenhof, you're going to get the best item from when you complete your little foray. So, basically, what we're doing is we're spending 500 gold, of which we barely have, to get 187 labourers. Now, generally what I want to do is go to the Great Hall of Greasus first anyway, because this will increase our relations with the ogres, which means they shouldn't declare war on us early, which is what we're trying to stop them from declaring war on us too early. Generally what I'll do is my second one, I'll go for a convoy over here. If it's not one that's trading away armaments, later on in the campaign, trade away all the armaments you want, because you're going to have them coming out of freaking every orifice that you've got. And it's a good way to get extra treasury. But early in the game, not so much. So if this was actually an armament one, because it varies over the different times, I'd probably go more towards Drakenhof, depending on what there is. But this is actually a perfect scenario for me. Ogre Controller increases our relations with the ogres while he's active, and this will increase it as well. So we'll dispatch that. So that's good. Good. He's building up his army. We'll just pop him a little bit further over here. It doesn't matter if he's in there or not, because that is where Clan Rictus is. And next turn, after we go for our next little bit there, that is what we're going to be doing. We are going to go for Clan Rictus. Now, we've got 62 influence. I saw there we're getting 5 per turn, so we're going to be able to get a seat in Zar soon, so I'll be able to show off the Tower of Zar. And that will be good, because the Tower of Zar has some very, very good buffs. And one of those buffs, the early ones I always grab, is one that gives you bonus armaments. Because that's how you get enough armaments to build that first armament building. Oh yes, and the reason you can see Zar Nagron there is that's where all of our convoys leave Zar Nagron. Now, we can't take this one, which is a pity, because we need 1,000 gold, and it's good to get extra units in your army, but we'll just continue the journey for now. We don't have the gold yet. So as you can see, there is an army next to Grey Mountains, but that's alright. Now, this one, it looks kind of like we shouldn't be able to win it, and I agree. I think that's a bit odd how easily you can win some of these, but that's alright. So we'll declare war here, and as you can see, Tretch is here. He's got some storm vermin, he's got a shitload of various things in a doom wheel and all that. If we auto resolve it now, we'll lose our orc labourers, which isn't a very big loss, but we're not going to do it right yet. We're going to get our overlord up here as well with him, just to add that. Just adding adds a tiny bit of weight, but he should be close enough. Yep. So we've got, what, 21 if you include him. They've got 32 or something all up. So it seems a bit skewed, but oh. And now we're not even going to lose our orc labourers. So we're just going to auto-resolve that one. Clean that up. Get a bit of money, get a fair bit of labourers from it. We're going to occupy... This one you can occupy as either outpost or factory. I'm going for outpost, mostly because I'm going to be collecting labourers here. Now that was actually Tretch there, so we get Tretch's trait, which is good. Plus 12 speed. Really good, especially once he's on Cinder Breath. So it's not a lot at the moment. It goes from like 35 to 36. you know, that's fine. We're not going to worry about his items at the moment. Push him up here a little. We can pop him into ambush stance as well. It doesn't really matter here at this stage. They won't be coming at us. Down here we still can't do any of the good stuff here yet, so don't worry about that. I am going to spend 200 labourers now so that we get more control. We've still got 568 labourers, so still well over. This here tells us where our efficiency is. If you go into here, you can actually transfer them around and actually manage. Once you've got a much bigger empire, you can manage it in here as well and move them around and tell this to have intake and that sort of stuff. Now, let's go into Mount Greyhag. What do we have? Nothing. Okay, that's alright. For the moment, I'm just going to put in a money pit. Just going to make money from it at the moment. We're not going to put in that. Once we can move this up to level 2, then we'll start actually getting stuff from here as well. There is marble and there is iron here, so iron turns into armaments, marble turns into raw materials. So it's actually a very, very good province for getting all that. 250 armaments or something from iron, but you've got to get it up to that level. Now that we've got those 3 points there and that one, I said we want to put in logistician. The reason for that is we get really good replenishment as it is, but with another, what's that, 4%, something like that, from logistician. Then we go over here. We want to start him out in replenishing troops as well, just to add more to it. And here we'll give him flash bomb. We'll go over here, give him harsh master. He doesn't really need that yet, but we'll need it soon enough, so that's fine. As you can see, they actually almost get to, like a lot of them are almost getting to full replenishment over this turn. Our convoy is just 2 turns away from completion, which is good. Got about 1,000 gold, which is good. We're not going to do any upgrades. We've now got enough armaments, we could even do more in the Hellforge, but we're not going to touch that yet. 2 turns, we'll be able to use more, get our conclave influence so that we can go into the Tower of Tsar. But we've got to get to 75 before we can actually do that, so there you go. So we're up to 6 turns so far. So, well, this will be going into turn 7. And we have already destroyed Tretch once. I think we end up having to fight him again. Maybe. I can't remember exactly, but in the home stretch at least. And it normally is either turn 10 or turn 11 that you've essentially got this completed and you have wiped out Clan Rictus. And that's what you want to do. You want to get rid of Clan Rictus early. If you don't, Skaven tend to become a massive pain in the arse. Now, it looks like we could go straight for Crookback Mountain. It's not actually the best idea though. They tend to have like 3 or 4 armies around there. So what we do is we get Ragnipash? What the fuck kind of name is Ragnipash? Anyway, so we get him and we pop him into encamp stance because that means he's very difficult to ambush. And behind him we put Drazoath. Now, there's a couple of things that can happen here. Sometimes he can get pulled out of ambush stance and then they don't come and attack at all. But we'll just see how it goes. We're not going to worry about any building. I don't think there's anything I need to build. Oh no, there we go. We've got exactly our 1500. So this is very good because it generates more money. Does it generate more money? No, not at this stage. At this stage, no, it's only 500 gold. Oh, okay. Doesn't generate more money, but it generates more raw materials. So at the moment it's like 100, then it becomes 200. Up here it becomes 500, so it's really good. But it does generate more armaments, so 10 and then 20. So we want that. We'll take 3 turns because I did use up labourers, but we're fighting Skaven. They have a lot of numbers, therefore lots of slaves come out of them. I mean, they've already got what they call Skaven slaves. I don't know. I don't even know why they've used the labourer term. But anyway, but as you can see, that's good. we've managed to get one of their armies to come out at us. And hopefully that's not locked up. Okay, that's good. Oh yeah, we'll give him the banner. Yeah, we didn't actually didn't get ambushed because he was in thingy stance. So we'll just auto resolve him away. Knock him on his ass and tell him to go away. Take the money again. He'll run off. He runs off that way somewhere. Very, very predictable. And this means we can go straight into Crookback Mountain next turn. And that gets us the capital of the province. So now, the other thing with playing Chaos Dwarves is if you want to get a higher than level 1 capital, you need to spend conclave influence for it. Unless you're actually fighting another Chaos Dwarf faction. Yep. That's all them dead. That's all them dead. His ambush was foiled. That's fine. We get 197 more labourers from our ogre dude that went off there. He gets a unit, so that's actually his unit in an army. We can't actually move that around or anything. But he also gets a purple item, which goes to him, which is a massive waste. So he's not going to keep that. That comes over here. Now, let's see. Let's do our upgrading of these guys. I like to give him melee defense so that he might survive. He still tends to get killed really easily, but it's alright. And our caravan guy, convoy guy, we'll give him. So just so that he's got less chance of getting wrecked in the next convoy. Speaking of which, let's start our new convoy. Now, we can go there again. You actually get less labourers this time. And you don't get an item or a unit anymore. But because I do want to just increase that relation with them a bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this cat eye one. And we're going to go there again. 500 gold for 149 labourers this time. Because the only place we're collecting labourers at the moment is here at the Black Fortress, they all go here. And I'm going to spend that 200 to increase my drill. So now I'm getting 400 there. I'm getting more armaments. And I want to increase my armaments more. And we have Tower of Tsar now. So the Tower of Tsar, basically, you spend some of your conclave influence. And you get access to these as you get them. So some of these, you know, various ancillaries or armor. And just various other buffs you can get throughout there. When you've got all 4 of one, you get that little buff at the top. And the other major Chaos Dwarf races, so Zatan the Black and I can't remember his name, the guy in the old man chair, also take these up, and you can usurp each other's things as well. So yeah, it's benefits and that sort of thing. But I get this one here to start with for the more armaments and the higher armament output. Sometimes they'll usurp it straight away, other times they don't. But as you can see, I'm now putting out 48 armaments a turn. That will mean very soon I'll have my 250 armaments that I want. Along with that, I now move to this one here to get my +1 control and move up into increasing my bull centaurs. And Drazoath will now head to Crookback Mountain. So yeah, Garrett's still there. That's fine. We will continue that siege. Normally there's a couple of other little armies around, so that's a little unusual. That's alright. So as I was saying before, you can spend conclave influence to get higher than level 1 tier when it comes to the capitals of the thing. So you can see here you can spend a certain amount to get more. Now, of course, I don't have any, so you could occupy as a tower, but I also need gold. And since this is higher than level 1, and I'm only going to get it at level 1. So just like when you're playing Skaven, we want to sack often. And I'm not even going to use him to occupy. I'm going to use Azrael here to occupy. So occupy it as a tower. You can actually occupy it as a minor settlement as well if you want. Why you would do that, I'm not entirely sure. And Drazoath himself, we're going to park him over here in ambush stance. Now, Crookback Mountain, for some reason we've got a hobgoblin thing there. We don't need that because we've still got our full army, all 20. So we can get rid of that building, and we're going to put in this building, the patrol routes. So if you've done anything wrong in any step earlier on, you're not going to have enough actual raw materials to put that in. But you just wait a turn. It's not too big a deal. Your upgrade path is all based on how much armaments you've got, so it doesn't. It's raw materials, so it doesn't actually matter how much growth you've got, which is really, really good, I think. As I said, you want to get this to level 3 because you do get this one here for 250 armaments per turn, but you want to be making a decent amount of raw materials as well. Alright, so we've got him there. Let's put more into logistician with him. Get his Warmatic going. Him, we're going to avoid that for the moment because we want to reduce the upkeep cost of our hobgoblins. And him, we're going to put into logistician as well. So yeah, so as you can see, income's a lot better now. Well, it's not great, but it's better. And we're still not going to spend anything here because we need a couple of turns of getting more armaments. More armaments are good for us. And we're nearly there already. So he will now bugger off because he's just got slaves in his army, which is fine. No real issues there at all. Now, the other thing that is completely unpredictable and completely out of your control is when the greenskins will declare war on you. They will just do it. Every now and then, these guys here will declare war on you as well. Or even the dwarves will declare war on you. Imric tends to hold off, but in my opinion, go for Imric before he goes for you. But, you know, up to you. So this is not what we were hoping for, because we would actually probably lose that battle. Now, since this isn't actually a campaign I'll be continuing, I'm just going to sacrifice them just to keep them going. But I'd probably actually fight that battle, just to see if I could win it. It doesn't matter that our ambush got foiled, we weren't really trying to ambush them. It's more of a just in case. Now, we step him out, put him into camp stance, and we start him on his way. This is just in case they do decide to come and attack. He goes into ambush stance, and he goes and stands by him. We will spend the 250 raw materials to get the money from that one. And I'm actually going to tell it now to start accepting more labour, because when we get Mount Silverspear, I'm going to be putting in the... what's it called building? That building there. The strip mine. And in next turn, we're going to start building our... lava fields to get our Bull Centaur heroes, because they're really good. Bull Centaur heroes, you park them in front of where your blunderbusses are, tank the enemy just there, and just blow the crap out of them with the blunderbusses. So this is good. He's come out to fight. We've got the ambush. Super good hit there. That is like basically best result you can get. So you can get a lot of labourers out of that if you want to, but we're low on fundage, so we do that one. Don't worry too much about that. They will occasionally do that, but they'll come back and attack you once you've taken Mount Silverspear. So that was good. Good little ambush there. Just what we wanted for our end turn on this one. And we are up to, what turn are we going to be up to now? I think this will make it turn, this will be turn 10, I think. So this is going to be one of the ones where it's turn 11 that you can wipe out Rictus. Yep, so here we go, turn 10. Rictus is now down to just having Mount Silverspear. Then they've got an army around the corner. Because we all like a pandemic prepper these days, so we'll do pandemic preparations. We will send him to Mount Silverspear. He should just be in range. Lovely. Encircle it. And we will send Azrael up there with him to, where is it? Out there. There we go. He should be able to reinforce from there. I suppose I should spend their points before I do this one. I'm going to start into his red line. So for him, I go red line into firing drills and that. Over here, we want him to start building up the stuff for his gobos. Make gobos better. And we will just go decisive victory. Goodbye. Thank you very much for coming. And we'll actually occupy this as an outpost. There we go. So we've got that province there. We will plonk that in there. And we'll go down here. We will plonk this in here. So we'll upgrade that one because we want to upgrade that as well. Because that'll start getting us more raw materials. And we will also get the Zava field started as well. Now we've got 300-ish labourers there. So if you want to, feel free to rush that one. There's probably not a need to though. And you're still in the pluses for your order here. Spend his points now into firing drills. He's now in your face. He's now getting those guys better. And he's now a good logistician. Now, that is basically how I start Drazoath campaign. Now, from here, you've got options. I will generally come down here. I will destroy Imric. Then a lot of the times, is if the Greenskins haven't made war on me yet, I'll go over here and wipe out these two, which normally pisses off Greases, but yeah. And a lot of the time I end up in a war with the Undead just here. Or with Greases, or with the Greenskins, or all three. Every now and then I end up in wars over here. So it does at this point become a bit more complicated, much less straightforward. Bit of advice going forward for, say, your Tower of Tsar. When you get up into the second tier, which doesn't take too long, my advice is go for this one and this one. It just increases the capacities in here, so it increases capacities for these, for basically this entire top line. Every 4 turns. That way you don't have to spend so much in the way of armaments, no matter what direction you go with. If you decide you want to go Cat-Eye, it increases all of them. So, but you don't have a choice on what it increases. So it's a bit of a potluck on that one. But anyway, that is it for the start of the Drazoath campaign. I think this one's actually gone quite well. So feel free to ask questions and all that sort of stuff in the comments, and I will see you in the next episode, which will be a continuation of Ostrogoth up here. No, up here. That's where Ostrogoth starts. So I will see you then. Hope you have a good one. I'll see you later.